So this is going to be quite a long video about custom taxiway lights using light rows. So I'm going to go into the SDK and load up the latest Gatwick scenery, and then cruise over to Quebec Alpha and create a new taxiway, just as an example. I'm just waiting for the Gatwick scenery to load in the SDK. It come up as blue. There we go. Then load my scene. Load in editor. Taking a bit of time to load. There's Quebec Alpha. I'm just gonna click on the taxiway path and split it. And then click on the taxiway point and select taxiway pointers. And you just need to click with the left mouse to branch off of the taxiway. That's a normal taxiway. Automatically creates a path in between. All the way up to the north. Now I'm going to highlight a taxiway path and select link path. That should highlight the new taxiway that I've created. Only that section. So now, normally you would create the line, the default line. The ones I've created are projected mesh, so my taxiway points don't have a default center line. Now what most people do is create the taxiway lights automatically. But the problem with that is there's no consistency. It's true that I think the more points you create, the closer the taxiway lights are. But when you get to a longer stretch, it seems to be quite random. There's no consistency, and also they don't always line up with the taxiway path, so it doesn't look very good. That seems really off. It may improve after building the project, but I've noticed too many times that in complicated areas where there's lots of taxiway lines meeting up in a curve, it gets messy and you get random taxiway lights in between the lines. So I don't like this way of doing it. A good example is
Lima and Quebec Alpha, Quebec Bravo. This point, if you use the default lights, it'll be pretty messy. You'll get random locations. So I've disabled I'm going to disable the lighting, the default lighting. So now I'm going to create a light row. This one you have to click Control, the first one goes down, and then you just follow the center line. All the way down. All the way to the northern end. So that's the new light row created. So to get to the light row settings, I've disabled the default taxiway lights now. Now I've selected the light row, trying to select the light row. See, I've created my own custom system, called them the colour names. You notice I've got green and then green 2. I've got red and red 2. Orange and orange 2. So I'll go to Senior Editor and just type in airport to highlight the airport. There's the information. Scroll down to light rows, light presets, and there you can see all the custom lighting I've created and given them the colour names. So you have to go in there and create your own lights. So these are the settings I use. You have to create a mesh. So you've got to create a mesh with Blender that looks like a cylinder or a disc, and that's going to be the mesh object that the light is bound to. But for the particular setting, that was the first one created. It's got to be unidirectional, so it's only illuminated in one direction. It's got to fade out, so the further away you get, the less bright it is. And originally it's on no fade. And then radius, intensity, just follow the settings I've put as 3
3, and you can select the colour on the colour picker. These settings are to do with the height above the mesh object and the direction of illumination. So in the relative position, it's just the middle one is the height. That's the height above the mesh object, and these are to do, it's just to do with the direction. Trial and error, I worked out that the third one along is the only one you need to worry about. So there's my mesh that I've created, a mesh object. If you look in the scenery, exported as a model, you'll find in my is Taxiway green, or Taxiway, that's the actual mesh object. So there's the flattened disk for the actual object, and there's a large invisible cube just to stop it becoming invisible, because it's quite a small object and it'll pop in and out if you don't create an invisible cube. That's the real size, about 30 centimeters. I exported that into the scenery, and then you can pick any mesh for the lighting. Obviously I want a disk, so select mesh, and that's the Taxiway object. So that's now linked to the light preset. Highlighting the light row, I need to look at the taxiway in real life and measure the distance between the taxiway lights on each section of the taxiway. And in this area it happens to be around about 14 meters. So I'll go back to the SDK, enter the spacing as 14. Sometimes you get this weird overdone spacing, so I normally drop it to 13.9, and then you should get the correct spacing. I have no idea why it does that. So now the taxiway lights need to be changed to my custom green. They should become green, and these are unidirectional. They're only facing in one direction, that's why they're not illuminated this way. So no illumination. If I go the other direction, they are illuminated. That's an original one that I made, but I also made another green. As you can see, that actually lowers it, the light, so you need to play around a very small amount. It's 0.036 is just about okay for the height above the mesh object. There is a helper that gives you the direction, so when you punch in different angles you see a white direction indication, but I cannot find it at the moment. I've completely forgotten where it is. It makes it a bit easier to visualize. It's somewhere in the menus. I have no idea. I cannot find it. It just makes it a bit easier. So that's one way. There's a little trick to highlight the light row. So the whole light row is illuminated for that section of Taxiway. All the way down. And then you've got to just duplicate the light row. And then you select the second green preset that I created, which is exactly the same. The only difference is the direction. So that's green 2 I'm looking for. It should be -90. So now, with a bit of trickery, you've got illumination in both directions, but they fade to the side, and they also fade from distance, which is exactly how it should be. The great thing with this system that it's always tidy. You don't get random taxiway lights, which is a big problem at this airport. It was before. They're all going to line up as long as you mark them down exactly along the taxiway centre line. So that's how the whole of Gatwick has been redone. Every single taxiway. And that's the end for the moment.